There's been a lot of discussion lately about unborn children and whether or not we should have them, or it should be illegal to remove them once conception occurs. In other words, a process called abortion. Should abortion be illegal or not illegal? Or should it be a matter of state concern after all? Well, I've given it a lot of thought, or actually some thought. And it occurs to me, why should we put the burden on women on abortion? If we cut off all the penises of all the males, we wouldn't have to worry about abortions. That would be a lot easier. There couldn't be an abortion without a penis, unless it was some sort of artificial insemination. And in that case, there would be an intent to have a child. So abortion probably wouldn't be a subject of much concern. I've always thought that it took two people to make a baby and two people to make a child, and also two people to raise a child, by the way. So why should one party be guilty or be liable and not the other? Particularly if both sides are willing. Now, I think one of the real problems with talking about abortion and things like that is the matter of, say, rape. Well, if men had no penises, we wouldn't have to worry about rapists. We could abolish a whole section of criminal code by penis removal. You wouldn't have to worry about whether or not there was consent to have sex, because there wouldn't be much sex. That's, I think, the most practical solution to the problem, because then we wouldn't have to worry about when conception was, or any biblical term or not biblical term. I don't like the I don't like the idea of basing childbirth rules and framing them in biblical terms. The main reason is I never learned to read Sanskrit, nor did anybody I know. I did learn to read Latin, but the Bibles printed in Latin started centuries after the birth of Christ or the death of Christ, whichever you want to use for measurement, and they're subject to social construction. Words were always used in a manner of social construction, so you couldn't understand what was being said unless you knew the social construction at the time the words or the writings were created. So you had to know the meanings of the people and the culture in order to understand things. So most biblical texts were written centuries later. So how did we know what the culture or the understanding of the words were at that time? Secondly, most biblical writings are translations from other languages. And I don't know, those of you that have studied other languages know that certain words or meanings or groups of words could be translated or understood in various contexts, depending on the social context. So my view is that the Bible, with the various translations, is sort of like a guidebook, and it depends on who the publisher and editor and translator was. But if we're going to use that as an ultimate or absolute standard, it's just not going to work, because it can't be an absolute standard because of the laws of sociology, anthropology, etc. So what do we use as a basis? Well, we can't use anything as a basis, really, because there are so many different standards and people can't agree. And if there is a general agreement, like there should be at common law, you've got a group of dissenters that don't give a shit what the rest of the people think. They had their ideas made up, their minds made up, ideologically generally, and because of that, it doesn't matter what the majority of the people want. If they can get control of the judiciary, they can screw everybody. In fact, they can do it even without penises, but that's another matter too. So what we have now is we have abolition of a method of child control or birth control, but also abolition of a way of thinking, of a viewpoint, of a standard of thought or a way of thought. In other words, you have a whole group of people that see nothing wrong with abortion. You have another group of people that see something wrong with the abortion. But you have the group that see nothing wrong with abortion tend to be people that don't want to impose their wills or their interpretation of things on others. Whereas the people favoring abortions do want to impose their wills and standards on others. So rather than worry about whether or not you're going to assault a woman, let's just get away with the problem in the first place, or do away with the problem in the first place. And the way to do that is to cut off penises. Now, growing up around livestock, we used to take young male cows, calves, whatever, and we would castrate them and make them steers. Well, you could do that probably and not have to worry about abortion, because it would be physically impossible to fertilize an egg, but that still wouldn't satisfy the anti-abortion people, because deep down they're not just concerned with the fact of abortion, they're concerned with the fact that some people find sex fun or enjoy it or whatever, and they're pretty much against enjoyment. So that won't solve the problem. They'll still find something to bitch about. So not having to go through all the debates and waste court time and things like that, the simple answer is to cut off penises, because then you can't procreate and you don't have to worry about unwanted babies. You don't have to worry about unwanted pregnancy, because it won't happen. Then with the adjunct of artificial intelligence, we can make robots and put artificial intelligence in battery-run brains, and then we can just forget about the human race in general. It doesn't matter whether sex is for procreation or not. It doesn't matter whether some deity claims that you shan't have sex other than to procreate, or some religious dogma. You make all of this irrelevant. And the only thing that's relevant is the impregnation or fertilization of the egg. Now, if you have castration, you have impossibility of fertilization of the egg, but you're still having people enjoying sex. And that's going to make a lot of these really misanthropic people very unhappy. So the real solution to everything, so we wouldn't have to worry about things, is the elimination of the penis, which is the root of all evil. And the same way with other decisions that society have to make now. It used to be to punish somebody. He had to intend to do wrong. Now you can do it if he's just a general screw-up. For instance, there's a case in Boulder where a guy drove a dump truck too fast and it rolled over and killed somebody. Well, they charged him with murder, and the jury thought, yeah, that's murder, because that was an error. Somebody's got to be punished, and we don't have negligence anymore. We don't need intent for there to be a crime. We just need somebody hurt. So you don't need intent to have a pregnancy. You just need to have it occur. The simple-mindedness of the general public is simplifying just about everything except for the advancement of society. And who needs that anyway, as long as we have computers and everybody's happy? And pretty soon, Things are going to get so scarce and rare. You're going to have citizens shooting each other, and that'll take care of our population problem. And we won't even have to worry about things like food and water or pollution. There's just going to be less people. And one of the really good secondary rewards of penis amputation is the fact of the population control. Now, of course, there might be some people away on islands or dark continents, whatever, that the penis amputation didn't reach. So we could still have some procreation and still advancement of the human race, but it would be very limited and probably very good for population control. Or we could have a drawing and have, 1 out of 10 men be able to keep their penises. That would also help and cut down population and cut down the idea of rape and cut down the idea of abortion. Because if you had a number like that, you wouldn't have a bunch of fanatics out there claiming that abortions were bad and we got to stop them, because the population ratio of decline would be such that you would need population replenishment. So these are some things to consider. And I really don't think it's fair just to single out women to be responsible for birth or for advancement of civilization or for the advancement of population. Let's share it equally. And therefore, let's have penis amputation, at least for 90% of the males. Give this some thought, and I'd like to hear some comments. You guys have a good weekend. Bye.